Hi and welcome. I've got an interview lined up with Rory Ingham. Rory, it's a pleasure to welcome you.
Hi, Carl. Lovely to be here.
Super. And we've got this interview, it's a privilege. Unfortunately, we've had to postpone your gig. You had a trio coming to live at the libraries, and that can't happen owing to COVID. But we've got the privilege of being able to have a conversation with you, and we're going to cover a couple of topics. Your band Bonsai and their recent CD Bonsai Club, and we're very interested in educational aspects. We support youth jazz in Nottingham, and be interested to learn about your background and the developing career that you've got. So let's start with a joke. Okay, I've got a trombonist joke. I think you've got one too.
When I was a kid, I said to my dad, "Dad, when I grow older, I want to be a trombonist." He said, "You can't do both."
Nice one. Right, the reciprocal joke then is, what do you call a documentary about trombonists?
Well, I don't know, Carl, what do you call a documentary about trombonists?
A slideshow.
Oh, whoa,
Come
whoa.
on. Okay. So
Very good.
the reason for putting that in is people are not always complimentary about trombonists, most unfair, and I'm sure we're going to remove that myth as part of our chat today, because it's a fantastic instrument that adds lots of texture to jazz music. Okay, so I've read a little bit of interviews that you've done in the press, but it'd be great to hear about how you started with the trombone and whether that was your first instrument, Rory.
Well, it wasn't my first instrument, actually. There was a few instruments that came before. When I was 4 years old, I took up the violin, and at the same time my brother also took up the violin, and he's now a professional jazz violinist, and I'm not. And we were learning with this method, amazing method called the Suzuki method, which is largely based on oral training at the start and no pressure to read music initially, which I think that's really good, because that you learn about the nuts and bolts of music without having to read it, and developing your ear and your time, your rhythm, and I guess hopefully developing an interest in music. I think often in music, when you're learning an instrument, it's an extremely hard thing to do, and then someone puts music in front of you and then everything's doubled, and I think that scares a lot of people and they stop playing because it's too much. So this it's a slow process and it eases you in. I was doing violin for a short period of time, but then the teacher suggested that I move to cello, and that would work well for me and my brother to have lessons together, him on violin, me on cello, and then I did that for a while. Then I retired at the age of 6 on the cello, and then there was a bit of a period of time when I was 6 years old. I remember going to a wedding, a family friend's wedding, and there was a trombonist there called Julian Turner, a trombonist who was working in Birmingham. And I said, "Can I have a go on the trombone? Can I hold it? Not play it, because that would have been ambitious." I could barely even hold it. The slide was far too long. But there's a picture of me, kind of him allowing me to hold his trombone, which probably was quite. I don't know. I would have imagined he would be reluctant to do that, to give a 6-year-old a full-sized, very expensive trombone. But I didn't drop it, and I remember thinking, "Wow, this is so." I was obsessed with the slide, actually. Funnily enough, that joke about the slide. It's like it's traditionally trombone. It's viewed as, in maybe more in olden days, a comedy instrument a bit, and the fact that it does this sliding thing. But that was the thing that actually kind of enticed me about the trombone initially. And then I didn't do anything about it, which is it's what it was. I didn't start learning the trombone at that time. I went through different instruments. My mum and dad are both saxophonists, so I kind of had a go at saxophone, and they were able to teach me, and a bit of guitar and various instruments. And I was never fully invested. And then when I was 10, the school that I was at said, "Would you like to learn a brass instrument?" That was primary school, and they were trying to persuade me to learn the tuba. To which my mum said, "No, you're not gonna play the tuba," because she would have been the one that was carrying it around.
And this was in Yorkshire, home of brass bands, was it?
Yeah, that's right, in Wakefield, in Yorkshire. Yeah, which is actually where I am temporarily right now.
Right.
And yeah, I chose the euphonium actually, and after a couple of weeks of playing that, I thought, no, this isn't what it was. This isn't what it's about. And so then I moved to trombone. And the thing is, although Yorkshire is the home of brass bands, I'd never really listened to brass band music. I'd never seen brass bands play really. I'd grown up with a jazz background. Mum and Dad, both saxophonists, both playing jazz and teaching jazz as well as classical music. And so it was kind of always around. I just where I'm sat now, I can just see loads of records and CDs around the place that we were kind of always had the joy of just them putting these CDs on, and I was listening to it and not really knowing who the people were, what it was, just kind of absorbing it without really signing up. But that must have had an effect, because then when I started playing the trombone, I quickly veered towards the kind of big band side of things and improvising. And there was a choice actually in the music service. They said, "Do you want to be in the brass band or the big band?" Because they rehearse on the same night or something. And I went for the big band, and then I never looked back.
Right, excellent. And I gather then that eventually that led on to you going to Cheetham School of Music in Manchester.
Yeah, it did. I was just before that. I was fortunate enough to be at the Queen Elizabeth Grammar School in Wakefield, where the music department was really strong.
Yep.
And I, having the opportunity there to be around other musicians that were also interested in jazz. I remember being at the age of about 13, and I thought, I want to form a band. I'll form a band. We'll play standards. We had the real books, which is a great resource for just being able to learn tunes. And I think Spotify had just come out at the time, or it'd been out for a short while, and I was obsessed with lots of records of Miles Davis and Cannonball Adderley and Charlie Parker, and I thought, I want to do what they did. Being professional musicians touring full time with their own groups and recording albums, and I thought that seems like the optimum thing. So why not get a band together and just start trying to play some of these tunes? And I think I imagined I would hope to be like them one day. And then we recorded an album shortly after that, actually.
Right, so you're quite youthful at that stage then. I mean, what age were that?
Yeah, well, that was 13, 14. The band was going for a couple of years. I was starting to book gigs and booked a few gigs and
wow.
and got booked a studio, and I think we recorded an album when we were 15. It's not out. It's not on the internet. It's not up there, but it's a precious documentation of that time. I wouldn't necessarily wish to bring that upon the ears of the public, but it was important for me, and I was kind of just keen to do it. You know, at that stage, it was kind of like, well, let's try and do some concerts, let's record, let's do that thing that I can see the people that have inspired me are doing. Obviously, we were doing it on a much smaller scale, and then that was kind of, I think that made me realise, well, this is actually something I'd love to pursue and invest more time in and develop, and so, and then shortly after that, I went to Cheltenham School of Music, and that was where I think as soon as I arrived, I was thinking, right, we're a music school. There's so many people around me. I've got to start a band here. You know, I remember sharing a room with the piano player Toby Como, because it's boarding school, so that's the situation. Sure. I was saying to him, I'd love to start this kind of band and this kind of, you know, I had lots of interests, and I said, right, let's go with this one, and it was with him on piano and Alexander Bone on saxophone and Johnny Mansfield on drums, and a Danish bass player called Felix Moserholm, who's quite a remarkable bass player who lives in Denmark, in Copenhagen, and then this became Jam Experiment, which was the band that then went on to more recently become Bonsai. Several changes of lineups over the years, and now it's trombone. My brother Dominic Ingham on violin and vocals, Toby Como on piano and keyboards, Joe Lee on electric bass, and Johnny Mansfield on drums. So yeah.
And when did you do the recording for that band then? That's available as Bonsai Club.
That recording was 2000, and we recorded that 2018, summer 2018, and in Wales, in the studio in Wales, and we spent 5 days in the studio, kind of exploring the music together, and it was a really great opportunity because we'd just come to the end of our first European tour. It was a small tour, but our first time out there, out of the UK, and we played in Berlin, Rome, Prague, Budapest, Krakow, a couple other places, I think. And so the music was at this stage where we'd been playing around and experiencing lots of different audiences and different. That was something that struck me actually. After playing, because the previous year we did like a 40-day tour of the UK, just the UK, and the audiences in the UK are, I think, a bit different to what we experienced in Europe, and so it was really nice to kind of get a feel for what other countries, what jazz audiences are like, and because I believe that the audience really affects the music. You know, as performers, we bounce off what we receive from the audience. Hopefully, we can give as much as we can give, and hopefully, we'll get something back.
Right.
And obviously, I was just saying, culturally, it's, you know, different cultures that react differently, and you know, so that was just really interesting, and shaped the music and kind of gave the music some more perspective in some way, and it grew on, and then we were able to kind of go in the studio having done all that. Right,
fascinating, and that just makes me reflect on the fact that, you know, at Jazz Steps, where, you know, we put gigs on at the Bonington, quite often, you know, there'll be American bands or Scandinavian bands, Dutch ones, and so forth. And you're right, sort of stylistically, the way they perform a gig is slightly different. The way they, you know, interact with the audience is slightly different. It's great to hear the other side of it and recognise that, you know, you found audiences, you know, I mean, sweeping statements kind of thing, but different in different ways.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, even, to be fair, in the UK, it can be different from one part to the other.
Yeah.
Depends on the club as well. Depends on the. I think sometimes it depends on the people running the club,
Right.
uh, and the effect they can have on the audience. You know, I think if there are some great promoters that I've come across that have got their audience really trusting them
Yes.
and trusting them to put on a varied program, from a diverse program, a you know, from young
Yeah.
to old, from
They'll give it a
and
go.
yeah, yeah, and it must be It must be. I can't imagine what it's like. I've never done that. I've never had the pleasure of promoting for a club or working on the committee, but it must be very difficult, and decisions must be tricky at times. But I've really I've seen a fair amount of people in the UK doing this, kind of managing to get the audience in and keeping them interested and open. I think that's one big thing. There's some people that I've noticed that maybe there's a lot of um I have to be careful what I say. There's maybe some there's maybe a case of a promoter booking the band that they really like, or the kind of music that they really like, but not necessarily being open to perhaps what does everybody else like, and sometimes actually falsely believing that everybody else might also really like that as the priority, you know.
Yeah.
Uh, so I guess that the main thing is kind of being open minded, and I think those are the clubs that have gone on, that carry on to be the most successful ones in my opinion, and bring in the audiences where there's lots of engagement. Yeah, I think that's the key, is to be open minded. So.
Yeah. So just going back then to this tour, presumably you kind of, as a band, evolved the music as you went along, and one of the things I've kind of read in the interview that you've given is that you said that the band functions as a collective, but everyone is a leader. So do you want to just kind of comment on that?
Yeah, sure. Um, so it's leaderless, but it's also it's everyone's leader. So at any point, we give each other the space to take the lead.
Right.
And so we're all writing music for the band, and kind of the way we rehearse music is there isn't anyone in charge. Although I form the group, but that doesn't and do the kind of administrative stuff. That when it comes down to being in the same room playing the music and making musical decisions, that's just equal input, and we've come to really desire that thing of kind of how if we can come to be as a collective. It's like the sixth member of the five piece. It's like the whole, in a way. It's kind of
Right.
It's, what's that phrase? The sum is greater than its parts. So even though things can take longer, I mean, things can take a lot longer than because there isn't a leader, and we have to, and it has to be a democracy, and even with making, when we were making the album Bonsai Club, we were fortunate enough to be signed by the amazing record label Ubuntu Music, which is directed by the amazingly generous Martin Hummel, and he's just about one of the best things that's happened on the UK scene, in my opinion. Supporting artists that are really doing something great, and giving them a platform via the label. So basically, there was then a kind of another party involved. There was us five. There's all of us making decisions, and then there's the record label, and then so that was when we realised that actually it takes a lot longer it takes a lot longer to reach a decision than you might like to. But then hopefully the decision that's reached is really quite meaningful and well thought out. I might have digressed from your original question.
Well, it was really just, you know, how it came about, and with Martin, is that somebody that you already knew about, and he'd heard you play, or how did you actually get the deal, as it were?
I can't remember what originally happened. I think we were looking at, as a band, trying to reach out to record labels and
yes,
making lists of, you know, who's out there. And I think, Martin and Ubuntu, we just came across that, and I think it was Sandy Brown. There's maybe a jazz website, and I think there was an interview on there with Martin Hummel. And I think either Johnny Mansfield, the drummer in Bonsai, or because we together we would kind of, he would help a lot with the admin stuff of the band. We were kind of going back and forth with people, and one of us found this interview and thought, wow, this person seems like their ethos and values seem really on what we want, and you know, what we can connect with. And so we reached out, we sent him a track, he was into it, and then he started to come hear us play, and we arranged some, he wanted to meet and, you know, discuss things. Well, we very much wanted to meet as well. I remember the conversation we had. We met for a drink to talk about it, and I had no idea. I really had no idea what I was doing. I'd never spoken with a label before, and I didn't know what to say, what to ask for, I didn't know anything, and I was kind of beating around the bush a bit. And Martin, he could see that, you know. I was I mean, that was 2000 and towards the end of 2018. So yeah, a couple of years back, I would have been 21. He could see I was new to this, and you know, and he just said, "Look, tell me what you want. Just be honest. Just let everything go. Be honest. What do you want? What do you want to hear from me? Ask me all the questions. You know, just come out with it." And then that was just kind of the start of this amazing relationship, I think. And then we were able to release the album on his label, and so much support from Martin. He was always coming to the shows. Obviously, we're not able to do any in this time, although we do have a live stream planned for the 28th of August. I'm not sure whether this will be out by then, but
we'll try.
7 p.m. on Friday the 28th of August on our Facebook page. We're doing a live stream, but obviously we can't play concerts right now, which is a huge shame. But we look forward to. We're kind of working on music now, and recording some stuff from home, and writing some new materials and sharing ideas. And we were just recently, we were fortunate enough to be nominated in the Parliamentary Jazz Awards as the newcomer of the year. So
cool. Yeah. That's congratulations. Brilliant. So just kind of obviously we'll provide some links as to where people can find and purchase the album via website, really, I guess, is it?
Yeah, it's www.bonsaibanduk.com. And yeah, the album's on there. I mean, it's also on Spotify, Amazon, iTunes, you name it. But we persuade you to go to the website.
Yeah, you need the CD. Yeah, definitely.
Yes.
And you know, I've enjoyed it, and there's some fantastic textures and variety in it, and the instrumentation. You know, particularly with the violin and trombone vocals is really kind of different, and you know, I think a jazz audience with an open mind would really appreciate it, and I've given it, you know, a goodly number of plays and listens. I mean, how would you describe it?
Great question. I suppose to try and describe it succinctly, I would describe it as the music contains a myriad of ingredients, a plethora of synths, lyrical melodies, and groove-fueled improvisations. This album was the product of changing our direction from when we were Jam Experiment with a slightly different lineup, where it was trombone and saxophone, and then it became trombone and violin and voice. And the trombone took a different role, kind of often sitting in the texture rather than being at the forefront. You know, not always, but just kind of exploring how we can use our instruments and to have different roles in the music. And there's some amazing singing from my brother Dom on there, as well as his violin playing, and some. I guess just I'm really proud of the album we've made, and I think just back to kind of it being a kind of collective, leaderless group. I think the fact that me and Dom have kind of been, well, we've always had music around since we were out of the womb. You know, we were playing together from such an early age, about almost 20 years. You know, and sharing ideas together for that long, and then having met Johnny Mansfield and Toby Como at Cheatham's and forming these friendships that felt like they went on to feel like family quite soon, you know, and then meeting Joe Lee, who had been singing in the cathedral choir with Toby Como, like from the smallest of ages as well, when they were living in Truro in Cornwall. The kind of amalgamation of all this coming together it's just filling me with joy to to even think about that and how precious that is, and I think I just feel very fortunate to have met these people and to be able to play the music, and the album itself is I think a wonderful document of that.
Yeah, here, and you know, there's some great reviews in the press, and we'll reference some of those links as part of when we publish this video. So I'm conscious of the time and need to kind of wrap up, but be helpful if you could just kind of reflect. Is there a couple of things that you've kind of learned, not necessarily from your college teaching or whatever, but something to pass on to, younger aspiring musicians about, what it's taken, what you think is useful for them to kind of do, to think about.
There's one thing that somebody said to me when I was younger, and he's not a musician, but it didn't matter to me that what it said really struck a chord, and if you will, and he said, you can do anything you want to do, and nobody had said that to me before. At school, I'd been disregarded for wanting to have a career in the arts. When I went on to tell my GCSE subjects in my school, the head of careers said, "Well, that's not going to get you a job." I wanted to do music and art and drama, and so often in the society we live in, I think it's hard if you're a creative person to keep going. And I was around people where their parents were saying, "Well, that's not going to get you a job," and all this stuff. And that's a society that's kind of built around getting a job as a priority, and then maybe that, like, it doesn't matter what it is as long as you've got a job type thing. Yeah. That's what was around. This, obviously, wanting to do music is very different. It's doing it out of the sheer love and, in fact, need. need to play and express yourself. So I guess one thing I would like to pass that on, that you can do anything you want to, and if you're a musician, listening to this, a young musician, I really firmly believe that people are gonna have their opinions about whether they think you'll make a career or earn enough money or whatever. Leave that to one side. Focus on the music. The money, that'll come later. Just really focus on what you love, because that's gonna. If you've got a choice to spend your time doing something you love, and I would encourage you to do that over doing something that you don't love.
Here. And the irony is that the arts, when it's able to function properly, is just such a creative force, and globally a massive influence and a huge money earner for our economy. It's really kind of ironic that we're in these terrible times at the moment where it's the arts that is suffering especially hard, isn't it?
Yeah, the arts is the first to, in a situation like this. Well, we've never been in one, but it's the first to suffer. And I think it's sometimes hard to depict, hard to prove how effective the arts is on people's having a good effect on people's feelings, and that kind of stuff. It's not about money, and it's not about the top grades. It's not about that. It's about expressing yourself and having an impact on other people as well. And that can be quite hard to kind of prove, if you know what I mean.
Yep.
There's another thing that just if there's young people wanting to do music, just a couple more tangible things. Kind of throw yourself at summer schools. There are some brilliant ones around, like National Youth Jazz Collective with Izzy Barrett, and if you're in Scotland, the National Youth Jazz Orchestra of Scotland. My dad was living in Scotland at the time, so I could be a part of that. But that's mainly for people up there, and also Nijo. Nijo have got a really amazing organisation. It's getting stronger and stronger by the day, it seems. Now with a huge virtual academy, in light of these times, and I benefited from all these things. The local jazz orchestra, if you're not already part of it, call them up, ask to show up, and kind of get involved in every which way. If you're young, tell your parents about what you're interested in signing up for these things as well, and kind of to kind of involve them so they can understand what might be good for you. And I guess a couple other things is that listening to music is just so incredibly important, and we've got this amazing resource of Spotify and Apple Music. So obviously not. It's great in some ways, the ways that you can access music from all over the world, and you can share music with your friends. That's a big thing. Talk about it with your friends. What have you been listening to this week? Can you tell me what? Give me some recommendations. I think that's the kind of thing that really also got me more invested, is kind of getting recommendations from other people that were interested in jazz at a young age. Listen to that. Have you heard that? Oh, let's play together. Let's practice together. That's a great one. Can we be in the same room? Can we actually learn this tune together? Because then gradually you feel like you're part of this community, which is just a really amazing thing. And if you're at a school where there isn't any jazz musicians, or budding jazz musicians, should I say, I think they'll be out there if you look, and that's what's important, to try to come together with the other people that are interested in what you're doing. I think that's just really very important.
Well, that's fantastic to hear all that. You're a passionate advocate, and it's given some great insights, I think, for as you say, budding players and trombonists or whatever instrument they're playing. So just to kind of wrap up, we have a further treat coming up for us. Well, two treats really. One is eventually you'll be coming up with your band to play for us at 4 libraries as part of our Inspire Jazz Steps Live in the Libraries, which really look forward to. But in the meantime, it'd be nice if you could introduce for us a piece of music that you are going to do as a bit of an exclusive for Jazz Steps.
Of course. I'm going to be... I'm delighted to play... I think it has to be my favourite jazz standard of all time, and it's called All the Things You Are, and written by Jerome Kern, and I'm going to play my version of that, and it's going to be solo trombone, which I'm very excited to share with you and to do it. It's not something I've done much of before, and I'm really... All the Things You Are is just one of my absolute favourites. I love the way the melody works with the bass line, and it's a tune I keep coming back to, and one of the first tunes I learnt in the earlier days. So I hope you enjoy my performance of All the Things You Are.
Surely we will. So thank you so much, Rory. That's been absolutely brilliant.
Thank you, Carl. Thanks for having me.